Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Monday, March 1st, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London. In Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We did not have a broadcast last Friday because of the heavy snow in the northeastern U.S. All things are nominal from now on. It looks as if we're finally out of the woods. I apologize to any viewers who were inconvenienced. We have a little economic news from the U.S. Real consumer spending increased in January by 0.3%. This is the highest level since May of 2008. The Commerce Department says that this is a further sign of a modest economic recovery. Also, the expansion at U.S. manufacturing firms remained very broad-based in February. This is according to the Institute of Supply Management survey released this morning. The ISM index actually dropped in February to 56.5%. Economists were expecting that the index would drop to 57.5%, so it dropped a full percentage point more than they expected. Readings over 50% indicate more firms said that business was improving than said it was worsening. The stock market seems to like it. It's up about 82 points right now. We'll now go to our main news. The main news continues to be the massive earthquake that struck in Chile on Saturday morning. This is a shot from the U.S. Geological Survey website. All of these boxes represent earthquakes that have occurred in Chile since Saturday morning. The big square yellow box located roughly the center there on the right-hand side is the 8.8 earthquake. The others are the aftershocks. The ones that are in blue are earthquakes that occurred within the last 24 hours. As you can see, there has been a tremendous amount of seismic activity there. As we know, there are over 700 people dead. The damage has been actually fairly gripping in terms of photography goes. That's a 14-story apartment building that collapsed. That's a fishing ship that's inland some distance. Over 700 people are known to have died. A state of emergency exists in the central part of the country. However, in the capital of Santiago, some signs of normalcy have returned. The stock market is open today. The government is open. And tomorrow morning, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will arrive. They had another aftershock there this morning. Again, these are fairly good-sized events that are occurring. This was a 6.2 aftershock. This one struck about 60 miles northeast of the city of Talca. But again, if you look at that map that we had up, it's very hard to distinguish what's going on down there now, given the level of seismic activity. EquiCat has weighed in with an estimate as to the possible losses in Chile. They're saying that the cost could be between $15 and $30 billion U.S., which would be about 6 to 8 trillion Chilean pesos, which could amount to about 15% of Chile's real gross domestic product. That would be a big whack. EquiCat said this constitutes a major disaster. However, the country's adoption and enforcement of modern seismic-resistant building practices has somewhat mitigated the devastation. Costs of reconstruction often exceed the value of economic damage, since new construction typically uses newer current building standards. And then they went through to run down some of the areas in Chile. The state of Santiago is expected to see about 50% of the total damages of that 15 billion. Also, the state of Valparaiso will contribute about 25% of it. The states of O'Higgins, Maule, and Biobío on the coastal areas that had very severe ground motions will get the balance of the total damage, but since the populations and resulting building and asset exposure is less in those areas, it won't amount to as much money as the big urban areas. But what an event. I mean, if that 8.8 had occurred in New York City or, God forbid, San Francisco or any place else, I can't even imagine what would happen. Chile, of course, is well known for copper, and the Anglo-American Corporation said that their copper mines that were affected by the earthquake are restarting as of today. Production was affected at Los Bronces, El Soldado, and Monteverde mines. They're now up and running. The affected mines produced about 342,000 metric tons of copper in 2009. So this is something that will be being watched by commodities future markets. Well, that's not all the activity. In Europe, a winter storm, Xynthia, with an X, struck the Atlantic coast of Portugal, Spain, and France and killed at least 50 people. More than 1 million homes in France are still without power. The worst impacted areas in France suffered widespread flooding and wind damage. 3 people were reported killed in Spain. 1 was killed in Portugal. This is the worst storm in France since Lothar and Martin in 1999, which caused insured losses of more than $5 billion. Xynthia moved inland in Europe yesterday, impacting France, Germany, and Belgium. Fallen trees closed train tracks as far west as the Westphalian states of Hesse and North Rhine-Westphalia and the Saarland. The French Finance Minister, Christine Lagarde, yesterday called for insurers to mobilize in an exemplary manner to help limit damages for people caused by the storm in France. She called on insurers to help speed up any indemnification and reparation procedures in order to limit the consequences of the natural catastrophe. In the U.S., the storm that knocked us off on Friday is still causing problems. About 200,000 homes and businesses are still without power today. This is after the slow-moving storm battered the northeastern U.S. with heavy snow, rain, and high winds. 83,000 customers are still without power in New Hampshire. New York State has 87,000 customers out, and Maine has 16,000 customers out. At the peak of the storm, over 1 million utility customers were without power. And over the weekend, on Saturday, actually in New York City at the Sony building on Madison Avenue, ice broke through the ceiling of an atrium, showering glass over partygoers who had left with 10 people had some minor injuries. Ice left by last week's storms fell from the 32nd floor of the building on Madison Avenue late Saturday night, shattering 2 3-by-5-foot glass panels in the lobby. A witness who was standing there said that she heard what sounded like some plates breaking. She looked up and there was glass flying everywhere. It looked like a hailstorm. A small piece of glass lodged in the chest of one of the partygoers. Minor gashes were received by some others. There was a little bit of panic, she said. People were afraid the ceiling was going to come down. The Buildings Department of New York City issued a violation Sunday to the property's owners for failing to properly maintain the building. They could face a maximum $25,000 fine. Stock market, as I mentioned, is up about 82 points. We'll go to a word now from our sponsors.
You may have already seen the demonstration of the CATEX Global Exchange in action. Some of the features of the exchange and our Pivot Point 2 software are especially useful to facultative and excess surplus lines brokers and markets. Here, we see the opening page of the contract workspace, which shows some of the details of a facultative risk as seen by the listing broker. Behind this opening page are screens which provide details of the contract of certificate, details on the parties or markets on the certificate, details of the exposures on the certificate, including aggregate data of the underlying risks, details on each of the insured risks, policy or certificate documents, including document templates, as well as automatic email links. This screen also provides links to details of the layers for brokers, the at-risk markets, premium information, policy accounting statements, the policy claims history, endorsements, and contract documents. The Pivot Point system is the backbone of the exchange platform. Pivot Point provides easy input of data as well as seamless structuring of the data into policy documents, accounting records, and statements, as well as underwriting criteria. The system allows brokers to focus their efforts on where they bring their clients the most value added, determining the appropriate layers and selecting the markets which are appropriate for the risk and layer. In these markets,